Hello, hello! If you're new here, I'm Dana, and I write unapologetically honest stories with real characters under the name D.L. Pitchford. And this is my little ghost friend, and today, really, over the next couple days, I will be trying to write like Stephen King. I've been wanting to do one of these writing vlogs where you test out other writers' routines for a while, and it just has been postponed and postponed for other videos that I've been more excited about or that required less research. Although, thankfully, this one doesn't require a whole lot because it's pretty well documented. I have read On Writing. I'm pretty sure that's the only Stephen King book I've actually read. Oops. And I've also looked over interviews, and lots of other author tubers have done some version of this for Stephen King. He is, one of the most well-known authors ever, and he is very open about his process and really shares with you like how he is so prolific. And so a lot of people want to try that out, and it is October, so it seems, on theme. So generally the routine that I have written down is this: as soon as he gets up, he eats breakfast and then he walks 3.5 miles. Then he works in his office until about noon, usually with a cup of tea and some hard rock metal music. He typically has his project open to the last page or scene that he was really happy with so that he can read and edit that a little bit to get his head back into the project. And then he writes a couple thousand words. It used to be about 2,000, but more recently he has said he writes about 1,000 words each day, new words. I don't know if that's how much he's still writing today because even that interview is from a few years ago. Then after he writes those 1,000 words, he revises it some and prints out the pages. And that whole process should only be about 4 hours long, and he is done by noon, which means he's getting up early enough that he has time to walk 3.5 miles before 8. I do not have that ability because I have kids and they have to be at school at a specific time. So we're going to fit this into my schedule as best as I can. My youngest gets dropped off at school around 7:05, 7:10, somewhere in there, and then I go to the gym and work out, and I'm usually home around 9:30 or 10, depending on how long it takes. I typically work on the treadmill for a little bit and then do some other aerobic activities before I get in the pool. If I add that up, I'm probably already doing about 2 miles, and then whatever activity I have in the pool gets added to that. So it might be somewhere comparable, not sure. I might add a little more time to my treadmill workout. We'll see how I'm feeling in the morning, honestly. And then I get back and I typically eat at that point, not before I go, because I'm just not hungry enough yet. So adjusting to eat breakfast before I leave to work out will probably be a little weird, but we'll see. Overall, it is still possible to be done with the writing part of this by noon. It really depends on how long it takes for me to get into the project and do a bit of a flow state. If I'm able to be done writing by noon and then I can work on some video editing after that, that would be ideal, but I'm not going to expect that. So that is my general plan and how I intend to tackle this. It would be nice to be able to move my schedule a little earlier so that I could fit better with what his schedule is, but that's just not possible. I cannot get to the gym sooner than 7:30. That's just how that goes. While I'm doing this experiment, I will be writing on my Red Riding Hood meets Jack the Ripper fantasy horror story. If you want to learn a little more about that, you can take a look at my video from last week where I talk about fairy tales and female sexuality and solidarity. I will see you guys in the morning. Good morning. I finished at the gym not too long ago. It is already closing in on 11 though because I had to run a couple errands afterward. I don't think I can write 1,000 to 2,000 words in an hour, but I mean maybe. So the odds of being done before noon are minimal at best. But I have my tea. It's iced, so I have a little straw. And I did forget to eat breakfast. I had suspected that I might, purely because it's not part of my routine. And yeah, I forgot. I walked 1.3 miles on the treadmill, and then I did the stationary bike for 4.55 miles. So that's not exactly walking 3.5 miles, but I didn't expect to reach that specific number. And now I'm going to drink my tea and listen to some hard rock while I work on this project. I generally have a playlist for each project. It might just be vibes. It might be a random like Spotify playlist that kind of fits if I have not made a specific playlist for this. This project does have a playlist, and I typically listen to that while I work. The playlist for this book is a lot of Starset and Billie Eilish, Bastille, Halsey, Aviva, 30 Seconds to Mars, Of Monsters and Men, Florence and the Machine, that kind of vibe, and then also a decent amount of instrumental songs that are just like vaguely creepy. I have a violin version of Britney Spears' Toxic, so that's the vibe, and this will be very different. I don't know how well this music will help me focus on this project, but we'll see. I like a lot of hard rock songs. This Spotify playlist that I found has like Finger 11, Skillet, Evanescence, Linkin Park, Falling in Reverse, Shinedown, 3 Days Grace. Like, this is, one of the ones where they make it specifically for you. So it has a lot of things that I like, which is good, but it's not necessarily things that work well for this project. We'll see. So I have that playlist ready to go, and now I am going to reread the last section that I wrote, make a few edits here and there where needed, and then get into drafting. Okay, my cats are going a little crazy, so I need to go deal with that. Two-Face wants to play and Gambit doesn't, so yeah, that doesn't work out very well. But it is 2:30 now. My tea is almost gone. I've written 1,022 words, which is not as much as I wanted to, but I also got distracted researching Victorian era stuff. So it's been about 3.5 hours. My minimum goal was 1,000 words, so I am technically done. And as much as I would like to shift gears and work on video editing for one of my vlogs, I need to finish up and get ready to go to our final parent-teacher conference. I need to reread the section that I just wrote. I'm not going to print it out like King does. Because I work in Scrivener, printing it out means either exporting it first or just copying it over to a different document and printing from there. I don't think I'm actually going to do that part. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Overall, this has been a pretty productive day. I wish I was able to get started a little bit earlier so I'm not this late in the day still finishing things up. I don't typically go to the gym on Tuesdays, so tomorrow morning I will probably be going for a walk on the trails nearby. I definitely will not be walking 3.5 miles. If I didn't do that at the gym on a treadmill, I'm not doing it on a actual physical trail that is typically much more rigorous. But I will go for a walk and then get started on stuff. I should be able to do that earlier because I don't have to take one of the kids. So since I'll be starting my walk from home, I will probably be able to get my day started sooner. Generally, though, I would say this is a success so far. I have not adjusted my schedule as much as I would like, but when you have kids, you work when you are able to. That's just how that goes. Today has basically been a wash, and I don't really know what to do about it. I'm very frustrated. I slept through my alarm and I haven't gotten anything done today that I wanted to get done, so I'm just frustrated. It is 1:30 now and I haven't even started writing. Stephen King would be done by now. I was not able to go for a walk like I wanted, but I have my boba tea, and I did do a short walk around the Waterwise garden just because I wanted to spend a little bit of time in nature. When planning out this video, I did not take into account that I have a regular appointment on this day. I would have had to take a break and do that and then get back into the routine. So with that in mind, I'm going to do my writing now and then do this routine again tomorrow to try to actually do it properly for one whole day. Yesterday was fine. The real issue was mostly I didn't eat breakfast, which also didn't happen today. I've eaten some boba. Yeah, if I get even anywhere near 1,000 words today, I guess I just have to be happy with that, because today has just been frustrating. And I'm in a bad mood because of all of that, so that makes it harder to write. Anyway, so I'm still going to follow his routine for the writing process. I'm going to read through what I wrote yesterday so that I can get in the zone, and then I'll write to some rock music. I found a different playlist today that has more older songs, so it's Metallica, Black Sabbath, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Scorpions, other stuff like that. So I will be listening to that playlist, and I have my tea, and we're gonna get to writing. I need to use this arm. It is 4:22, which is definitely not noon, but I managed to write 1,154 words. I was able to finish that chapter I was working on yesterday, so this is a lot better than I expected it to be considering how late I got started. My biggest issue, of course, is that I don't have time for any video editing now. How am I supposed to get this video or the other vlog that I'm working on posted by the end of the month if I'm not able to work on any of the video editing? That doesn't work out very well, guys. And if I'm going to do this again tomorrow, I won't be able to get much video editing done tomorrow either. We'll figure it out. If they're posted late, they're posted late, and that sucks, but this was predictable. In fact, I did predict this. I generally assumed that I would not be able to get all of the videos I wanted out in October to actually be out in October, especially since I was late at the beginning of the month. It's fine. This is fine. I'm making good progress on this book, though. Not as fast as I would like, but that is kind of how it goes. I am aiming for about 80,000 for this draft, and then it will get bigger, and then I'll have to cut it down. And it will end up probably around 100,000 words. I'm at about 11,000 right now, which is about 14% of the way through. It's not amazing by any means. And what I've written here definitely needs some editing. It is not how I want it to be, like, at all. But this is a rough draft, and it's fine. I will say this playlist that I used this time was much better. This was a playlist that some random person made, as opposed to one that was made for me by Spotify. I think this was much more in keeping with the kind of music that Stephen King actually listens to, so vast improvement. Neither of these playlists, though, have actually really fit the vibes. Like, my story is, like, eerie, creepy, and that's what I want to be listening to, so this is very different. Some of the stuff works, but most of it is too action-y. This is why I have specific playlists, though. So because today got off on the wrong foot, frankly, I will be doing this routine one more day to try to get it down to what it actually should be. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Morning. It is pretty chilly this morning and drizzling. It's been raining lightly for the past couple days, but it really picked up last night and has continued throughout the morning. So I went for a short walk because I did not want to be out there for a long time. My hair is still wet from walking around in it, but I have my tea and I have my hard rock playlist ready to go. This isn't part of his routine, but I'm going to light a candle. This is a pumpkin spice chai, so it's going to smell like tea too. I had a small breakfast and I went for a short walk, and now it is time to look at the last scene that I wrote, go over that, do any editing or revision that I feel necessary at this point, and then I'm going to dive into the next chapter. Okay. It is 3 o'clock. I did get a bit of a late start again today. That's just kind of how my schedule works, unfortunately. Over a period of about 3 bursts, I wrote 1,199 words. This section that I'm working on made it come really easily, but I am so prone to distractions. I definitely spent like an hour working on a playlist, so I probably spent an hour actually writing, but then I was doing other stuff too because I cannot focus, which is great. I love that. I would get so much more done in general if I could just actually focus on what I want to focus on. That would be great, actually, if that could happen. I've made some really good progress, though, and I have written some pretty solid words. I am very happy with what I've written today, which is different from yesterday. Yesterday, I don't really feel like what I wrote was all that good, but that's okay too because it's a rough draft. Right now I'm working on a scene of Agatha and her grandmother, so it's fun. I love their dynamic. Her grandmother is basically like the one safe person that she knows until meeting more people and actually like legitimately making friends. Her grandmother is like the only person she truly trusts. And they're both, like, spunky, and it's just such a treat to write them together. I'm happy. So I did want to touch base on the routine itself. There has not been a single day that I have adhered to this routine in its entirety. The last 2 days, I forgot to eat breakfast because that's not a part of my normal routine, so I just didn't get to it. Today I did. It was just something small. I have not walked 3.5 miles on any of the days, purely because that is more than I, 1, have time for, and 2, have the stamina for. I do not do it enough. I have not built that up to be able to do 3.5 miles. I have, however, walked every day. Monday I walked a decent amount. Today and yesterday, decidedly less so. I did not, on any of these days, get up early enough to be able to be done by noon. That isn't really possible with my schedule. And then yesterday I also had the issue where I slept in. This morning I slept in a tiny bit, more than I intended to, but I also did not have an appointment to mess up my schedule. I do really like the emphasis on exercise and including that as part of your writing routine. Exercise is really good for you. It gets the endorphins going. It is also very helpful for like focusing your mind and making you calm and happy. Walking is something that I have been trying to integrate more often, especially if there are times when I get stressed or frustrated. I go for a walk and that helps calm me down. That is something I have been implementing more often in my routine, so I really like the emphasis on that in this. My preference, of course, is to walk in nature, but as it gets colder, that becomes less and less doable. My walk today was very short because it was drizzling all morning. It was just kind of miserable out, but you know, in a pretty way. I love that kind of weather, but it's not ideal for walking in. As far as the actual writing process, obviously I did not print anything out, so there I am veering away from what he does specifically, but I did stick to keeping the project open to my most recent scene that I am happy with and doing a little bit of editing at the start and also ending with the editing. That was how I approached the writing every single day. Having that as your starting point means that you're really getting into the right headspace. I try not to do a whole bunch of editing while I'm drafting, but this does feel like a reasonable exception because the point is to just reread what you just wrote and go over it really quickly, do a few minor tweaks and edits. And even the part at the end, you're just going over the section you just wrote. It's not the same as procrastinating by reading over your story and editing it and editing it and editing it. It's not the same as rewriting your first chapter a whole bunch of times because you're not satisfied with it. You're specifically only going and doing edits on the section you just wrote. That is an important distinction solution to the trap that a lot of new writers get stuck in. As far as tea, I forgot about it and now it's cold, so I've drank some of it, but not a whole lot. I do more often have coffee than tea. And I try to keep my music choices in line with the project I'm working on. I have a specific playlist for this project, and it is updated and curated into a playlist that I really enjoy. So working with rock music instead of the eerie monster vibes that I'm used to for this project was a little jarring, but I do typically listen to music with lyrics, and it is all music that I know well, so it just kind of blends together. Occasionally I do have an issue where, oh my god, I love this song and I have to sing along to it because I can't not, but that doesn't happen all that often. I will say I am excited to go back to being able to listen to my own music while I'm writing on this project, or any project. Overall, this is a very solid routine, which it should be. He's been writing forever, and while I appreciate his notion that a writer should write every day, that really is one of those stereotypical writer advice things that you hear all the time, and it just doesn't work for everyone. It's not realistic for everyone. It's certainly not realistic for me, and it is one of those things that a lot of newbie writers take to heart and think that they're not good enough if they don't do that, and really, genuinely, that is not true. When you're writing, and especially if you're just starting out, you have to fit writing in when you can. Sometimes, if you're Stephen King, if you, for one, make enough money that you're able to do writing full-time and don't have to rely on your spouse's schedule to fit in spending time with the kids. If he's in his office from 8 a.m. to noon, that means he's not helping out with getting kids to school or making breakfast or anything like that. He is doing his own thing and is not available to the rest of his family until after he's done, which is totally valid, but that doesn't work for a lot of people. That doesn't work for most people, especially with young families. That's just not an option. And obviously, he doesn't have a young family now, but he did at some point, and he's been doing this writing thing for a very long time. There have definitely been times where he has put writing before his family. He fully acknowledges that in his memoir. To him, writing comes before family, and that's certainly not how everyone operates. I like to think that's not how most people operate. It's certainly not how I operate. I did not at any time get done with this process before noon, and I wish that I had been able to do that at least one day. The timing never really worked out. I'm pretty sure I would have to go to bed when my kids do and actually fall asleep right away. Does not happen. And then I would have to get up before my kids do to be able to fit in breakfast and exercise and then the writing all before noon. It's a really nice idea to get it out of the way by noon, and then you can just enjoy the rest of your day. I love that as an idea. I don't wake up that fast. I do understand that like the exercising aspect is supposed to help wake you up. That is part of why that happens first, and that would help, but it takes my brain a while to get fully in gear. And if I did not get enough sleep because I didn't fall asleep right away, that process is even more difficult. Overall, there are a lot of things I like about this routine. There are certainly some elements that I can implement more into my own. My only real frustration with it is the lack of flexibility. He does this every single day. Weekends, birthdays, holidays, everything. It doesn't matter what is going on. He does not schedule anything before noon. So either things happen around him without him, and he just has to live with not being present for opening presents on Christmas morning, or it gets postponed until after he's done, in which case everyone is waiting on him. I do not think I could ever be so bold as to be like, hey, you know, when we open presents Christmas morning, yeah, that has to be after I'm done writing, sorry. I cannot. That's crazy. Genuinely, that's crazy. I would like to do another one of these writing routine videos soon, hopefully next month. The point of these is to be able to find elements that I can fit into my own routine, to make improvements to the way I'm already doing things. It is not to find the perfect routine that's already put together. That's just not how people work. So if you have any suggestions suggestions on who I should try next. I am definitely interested. I have a few potential authors, but I haven't narrowed it down yet, so thoughts and suggestions would be helpful. See you next time!